Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Working Trader, where we look at the Euro USD, we do daily analysis, come up with trade ideas for the day. Let's look at the Forex Factory. Today's a Friday. We do not have any high impact news. Yesterday was CPI, and this should probably be the last high impact news for the year. So this will also be my last video for the year, because the markets from this point onwards, they'll probably slow down. So yeah, we will resume at the beginning of the year. Okay, so looking at the charts, let's review. Let's see. Okay, so yesterday we had CPI. So on Tuesday we had NFP, which was the news driver to push price to mitigate this daily supply. Okay, which was the news driver to push price to mitigate the daily supply. And then since then, we then had a strong reaction. Okay, and then CPI sort of pushed our price, but ultimately we had a bearish daily candle. Okay, so today's Friday. I'm still thinking that price could drop down to mitigate either this daily supply, or at the very least to tap into this in these sell to buy weeks, okay, before price eventually continues bullish, right? Ideally it may drop to mitigate this this daily demand, okay, because we're coming from daily supply. It is highly likely that price will drop to daily demand for before price resumes or continues the bullish trend. Okay, so looking at the 4-hour, I was expecting price to mitigate this 4-hour supply before we start pushing down. So eventually we did mitigate the 4-hour supply, and now I've had a reaction, and so 4-hour supply is in control. Because this has already been mitigated, if price decides to come down, we expect a deeper mitigation and possible failure of this demand zone, okay, for price to then reach this daily and or nested 4-hour demand. And then on the 1-hour, price eventually reached the 1-hour supply where I was expecting. So that means right now the trade idea, yesterday's trade idea, it should have been this short, 15, 17, and then going for 2 hour. Right, so that would have played out, and right now that would have been TP. So that means Wednesday and Thursday, that would have been 2 good trades. Okay, and both of them, you find that price just hit the proximal and took off. Hit the proximal and took off. All right, so these would have been good trades for us. All right, so that was yesterday's analysis. Okay, so we can see that it played out. Okay, so looking at today, looking on for today, what do we expect? So for today, all right, our internal is bullish. All right, this is the internal range that we are in. However, we have broken structure. All right, we now have a daily change of character. Okay, so we have a daily chalk. We have our daily chalk right there. So because we have our daily chalk, obviously that's an aggressive way where we are saying price is indicating that it could be ready to start a internal pullback. Okay, whereas price is ready to start an internal pullback. So first indication is we have a daily change of character by breaking this low. Okay, by breaking this low, so we've had a change of character. So this is a fractal daily supply. Okay, so from this point, either price could mitigate and then continue, or because it's already coming from the area, it could just continue. Okay, but as it stands, supply is in control. Okay, supply is in control, so sales may be high probability. So looking at the 4-hour, we have this sub internal break of structure. Okay, so we've had this sub internal break of structure, and price come back to mitigate the newly formed supply area. So now the expectation is that this is a weak low. Okay, and we expect that weak low to be taken. Okay, and then eventually resulting in a deeper mitigation of this demand and possible failure of that demand. So up until this fails, then we'll have to look for a new structure that's formed. Okay, for a new structure that will be formed on the 4-hour, and then that will possibly be our zone of interest for price to mitigate and continue the sub internal trend to the downside. Okay, all the while being aware that overall we are bullish, and this is only an internal pullback. So it could be just enough to mitigate this daily demand or this nested 4-hour demand. And then look at the 1-hour. So 1-hour is now clearly bearish. So our internal, this was our last internal break of structure, which is bearish. So this is our swing range or our internal range on the 1-hour, which is now bearish. So we've mitigated that, and that has pushed price down. We expect this low to go, and we expect deeper mitigation of this 1-hour area. So we expect price to break below this low, and then we'll have a new area of supply, and then we could look to sell from that area, expecting this to fail and for price to continue to mitigate this nested 1 hour demand on the daily proximal line. Okay, on the daily proximal line. So this is the analysis for the day and trade ideas. Okay, so to recap, we expect this to fail, or at least we expect a deeper mitigation of this 1 hour. So we wouldn't be looking to take any trades from here. However, this could be a reaction into whatever newly supply area that will be created, and then we could look for sales from that new supply area to then, target this area, and then this could be an area to look for that reaction to set up a trade. And then since this is going with the trend, and then that's where we could look for buys. Okay, that's where we could then look for buys. So those are the trade ideas for the day and pretty much for the rest of the year. Okay, so this is the last video for the year. So we will resume, because from this point onwards the market will start to slow down because of the Christmas period. So definitely markets will slow down. So the opportunities may not really be there. So you do not want to put your capital at risk. Okay. So other than that, if you've been finding value in this material, in this content, please hit subscribe and like and leave a comment. Otherwise, this is it from the Working Trader. You have a good day, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year. Working Trader out.